Welcome to our deep dives into 1 Timothy 3.1 TIF 16.
All right. Yeah.
You've shared this passage with us, and I have a feeling you're interested in its wisdom
Right.
about church leadership, right?
Absolutely.
We're going to break down the text,
Okay.
explore some study guides,
Yeah.
and unpack what Paul was communicating to Timothy,
Right.
and by extension, to the church.
To the church, yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how this passage speaks to the very heart of Christian belief
Right.
while offering practical guidance.
Yeah.
It's not just a set of rules, it's a window into what the early church valued and how they understood their mission.
Okay, so let's jump right into the first verse.
Okay.
It says, if anyone aspires to the office of overseer, he desires a noble task. What stands out to you about this opening line?
I think the emphasis on aspiration and desire is key.
Yeah.
Paul isn't just listing qualifications.
Right.
He's highlighting the heart behind leadership. It's not about power or prestige, but a genuine yearning for a noble task, a weighty responsibility.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And it sets the tone for everything that follows. Then we get this fascinating list of qualifications for overseers, also known as bishops.
Right.
Some are expected, being above reproach, temperate, hospitable, and able to teach.
Sure.
But then we see things like not violent or not a lover of money. What do you make of these more unexpected qualities?
It suggests that leadership in the church isn't just about spiritual knowledge or teaching ability. It's about embodying Christ-like character in every aspect of life.
Right.
Avoiding violence speaks to peacemaking and gentleness, while not being a lover of money points to generosity and contentment.
And it's interesting how these qualities translate beyond church leadership.
Right.
If we think about leaders in any field, wouldn't we want them to embody these same virtues?
Absolutely. Integrity, self-control, and a heart for others should be hallmarks of leadership in any sphere.
Right.
Wouldn't you agree?
Completely.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if these qualities were truly prioritized in our leaders today, what kind of impact could that have?
That's a profound thought.
Yeah.
Imagine the shift in our institutions and communities
Right.
if leadership was truly characterized by these values.
Okay, so we've got these character traits,
Yeah.
but there's also the intriguing requirement of managing one's household well.
Right.
The text says, for if someone does not know how to manage his own household, how will he care for God's church?
Yeah.
It's almost like saying,
Right.
show me you can lead a family, then we'll talk about leading a church.
Yeah.
What's the logic behind this connection?
Well, leading a family, even with its challenges, offers a practical training ground for the skills needed to shepherd a church. Think about it guiding, nurturing, resolving conflicts, making decisions for the well-being of others. These are all transferable skills. And demonstrating competence in the home builds trust and credibility for a larger leadership role.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It also underscores how interconnected family and church leadership are in Paul's mind. Now, this passage doesn't explicitly mention women as overseers.
Right.
But it does talk about the qualifications of deacons.
Okay.
Another important role in the early church. Again, we see some overlapping virtues with the overseers, but also some unique ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to see how these qualifications highlight the specific functions of a deacon.
Okay.
They're expected to be worthy of respect, not double-tongued, not given to much wine, and not pursuing dishonest gain. These qualities point to integrity, trustworthiness, and a heart for service.
Especially that not double-tongued part. It really emphasizes authenticity and sincerity, which are so important for building trust, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We often think of double-tongued as speaking falsely or deceitfully, but it can also suggest a lack of integrity, saying one thing to one person and something else to another. For deacons entrusted with caring for the church's needs and mediating disputes, this quality is paramount.
And there's also that intriguing requirement of holding the mystery of the faith with a clear conscience. What do you make of that?
It speaks to the importance of not just believing the right things intellectually, but embodying the faith in a way that aligns with our actions and conscience.
It's about a lived faith.
Yeah.
A faith that permeates every aspect of our lives. not just a set of doctrines we agree with.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a powerful call to integrity for all believers,
Yeah.
not just deacons. It's a reminder that our faith isn't just about what we say, but how we live.
I love that. Now, this section also mentions wives.
Okay.
Specifically deacons' wives.
Yes.
It says they are to be worthy of respect, not slanderers,
Right.
temperate and faithful in all things. What are your thoughts on this section?
Well, while it's true that women weren't explicitly mentioned as deacons in this passage,
Right.
their character and conduct were clearly considered crucial to the church's witness.
Okay.
Remember, this was a time when a family's reputation was intertwined with its members.
Right.
And a deacon's wife was seen as an extension of his ministry.
So even though there weren't formal roles for women in leadership, their influence and character were still considered vital to the health of the church.
Precisely.
Okay.
It underscores the idea that leadership isn't just about the individual.
Right.
It's about the community they represent and the influence they have on those around them.
It's fascinating how these qualifications highlight the interconnectedness of family and church life, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's not just about individual piety.
Right.
It's about how our lives reflect our faith in the context of our relationships and responsibilities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this idea of a lived faith, a faith that's visible in our actions and relationship, leads us to another important question. What's the motivation for serving?
Right.
What's in it
for
those who aspire to leadership?
Good question. The passage mentions that deacons who serve well gain a good standing and great assurance in their faith.
Right.
So it's not about earthly rewards or recognition, but about spiritual growth.
Precisely. Serving faithfully isn't about climbing a ladder or seeking power.
Right.
It's about deepening our trust in God and experiencing the joy of participating in his work.
Yeah.
The more we invest in serving others, the more our own faith is strengthened and our confidence in God's presence and power grows.
It's like that saying, you can't serve others without serving yourself. It's not selfish.
Right.
It's about recognizing that true fulfillment comes from aligning our lives with God's purpose.
Beautifully put.
Yeah.
And this principle applies to anyone serving in the church, not just deacons.
Right.
Imagine the impact if every volunteer, every teacher, every member saw their service as an opportunity for spiritual growth and greater intimacy with God.
Now that's a powerful vision. And it leads us to one of the most profound statements in this entire passage, perhaps in all of Scripture, verse 15, where Paul describes the church as the pillar and bulwark of the truth.
Right.
Wow. What images or ideas come to mind when you hear that?
For me, it evokes a sense of stability, strength, and unwavering support. A pillar holds up a structure, prevents it from collapsing. A bulwark is a defensive wall, a protection against attack.
Paul is saying that the church is meant to be a source of unwavering support for the truth. A place where people can find solid ground in a world that's often chaotic and confusing.
It's like a lighthouse in a storm.
Exactly.
A beacon of light cutting through the darkness.
And this metaphor takes on even greater significance when we consider the cultural context. Remember, Timothy was in Ephesus, a city known for its pagan temples and diverse philosophical schools. Truth was relative, and competing claims were constantly vying for attention. In that environment, the church stood out as a place where truth was upheld, defended, and proclaimed.
And that image of the church as a defender of truth feels particularly relevant today, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
With the rise of misinformation, fake news, and alternative facts, people are struggling to discern what's true and trustworthy. How do we live out this calling to be a pillar and bulwark of the truth in our current context? It's a challenging question, but also an exciting one. It's not about retreating from the world or simply repeating doctrines. It's about engaging with culture thoughtfully and discerningly, speaking truth with love and grace, and modeling a life that reflects the integrity and beauty of the gospel.
It's about being a source of light.
Beautifully said.
Not just pointing fingers at the darkness.
And this responsibility to uphold and embody the truth brings us to the climax of this passage, verse 16, where Paul unveils the profound mystery of godliness.
This verse is like a theological fireworks display, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It explodes with truth claims about Jesus. God manifested in the flesh, justified by the Spirit, seen by angels, preached to the Gentiles, believed on in the world, received up in glory.
Yeah.
Talk about a grand finale. What strikes you most about this declaration?
What's remarkable is how Paul manages to encapsulate the entire Christian story in this single verse. It's like a microcosm of the gospel. A concise yet comprehensive statement of what we believe. And notice how it builds from the earthly to the heavenly, from the incarnation to the glorification of Christ.
It's like he's saying, here's the foundation of everything we've been talking about. This is the truth that undergirds the church's mission. Its leadership. And it's called to be a light in the world.
Precisely. And it's important to remember that Paul isn't just stating facts. He's unveiling a mystery. The Greek word for mystery here refers to something that was previously hidden, but has now been revealed through Christ. It's something to be pondered, explored, and lived out.
So it's not just about intellectual assent. It's about experiencing the transformative power of this mystery in our own lives. Letting it shape how we view the world, how we relate to others, and how we understand our place in God's grand story.
Exactly. And this leads us to another crucial question.
Okay.
How does this mystery of godliness, this profound truth about Jesus, connect to the practical instructions about church leadership that we've been discussing?
I'm glad you asked that because it's something I've been wrestling with as we've been exploring this passage. Why does Paul juxtapose these seemingly disparate themes, the qualifications for leaders, and the profound mystery of Christ? What's the connection? It feels like Paul is saying, if you want to understand true leadership in the church, you first have to grasp the profound mystery of who Jesus is and what he accomplished. It's not just about managing a household or having good speaking skills. It's about reflecting the character and heart of Christ in everything we do.
You've hit the nail on the head. The qualifications for leadership aren't just arbitrary rules. They flow directly from the truth of the gospel. The qualities of a good overseer or deacon, humility, self-control,
generosity, integrity. These are reflections of Christ's own character.
So it's about embodying the very essence of the Christian faith in our leadership, not just ticking off boxes on a checklist. But let's be honest, this is a pretty high bar. It can be a bit daunting, especially if we're comparing ourselves to these ideals. Does this mean only perfect people can serve in the church?
So that's a question many people wrestle with. And it's important to remember that Paul isn't presenting a standard of unattainable perfection. He's painting a picture of the kind of character and conduct we should be striving for, both as leaders and as followers of Christ.
So it's more about direction than destination. It's about recognizing that we're all on a journey of growth and transformation.
Absolutely.
And our imperfections don't disqualify us from serving.
Precisely. In fact, our imperfections can actually make us more effective in ministry. People connect with authenticity.
With leaders who are willing to admit their weaknesses and share their struggles.
It's about being real, relatable, and humble, rather than projecting an image of having it all together.
And that's where the mystery of godliness comes into play again. It's not just about our efforts to be good or to achieve some standard of perfection. It's about recognizing our need for grace and allowing Christ's transforming power to work in our lives.
It's about being rooted in the truth of who Jesus is and what he's done for us, letting that reality shape our character, our motivations, and our actions.
Beautifully said. And this brings us back to the grand vision of the church as the pillar and bulwark of the truth. It's not just about defending doctrines. It's about embodying and proclaiming the truth of the gospel. A truth that has the power to transform lives and renew communities.
It's about being a beacon of hope.
Exactly.
The source of healing. A place where people can encounter the love and grace of Christ in tangible ways.
And this vision should inspire us, challenge us, and motivate us to live out our faith with greater intentionality and purpose.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into 1 Timothy 3, what's the one thing you hope our listener will take away from this exploration?
I hope they'll be encouraged to see this passage not as a set of rigid rules, but as a beautiful invitation to a deeper, more meaningful life in Christ.
Yeah.
It's a call to embrace the mystery of godliness, to allow it to shape our character, our relationships, and our service, and to join with others in building a church that truly reflects the heart of Jesus.
What a beautiful and challenging message. And for you, our listener, I hope this deep dive has sparked new insights and encouraged you to reflect on how you can live out these principles in your own life, whether you hold a formal leadership position or not.
Right.
Thanks for joining us on this fascinating exploration.